let's just say transactions are a little boring. I just pay and then I go about my day, and I'm shopping every single day. So why not make it fun? Why not add gamification? Why not add cryptocurrency now? There's all kinds of new forms of payments. There's different biometrics, hand, there's voice, there's, eyeball scanning, all kinds of stuff. And so I wanted to use a face because it's not just your visual image of who you are, but it's also sort of your unique identifier as a payment method. So, you don't leave home without your face.
This show is produced in collaboration with Ardian, a reliable end-to-end payment solution that enables businesses to turn payments into a strategic growth driver. We're also brought to you by Lulu Financial Group, a global financial services provider headquartered in Abu Dhabi and operating in 11 countries. Finally, Culturenomics with Arjun Singh is brought to you by M2P FinTech, Asia's leading payment infrastructure company that enables businesses of any scale to embed financial products. Welcome to today's episode of Culturenomics with Arjun Singh. I'm your host, as always, Arjun, and today I'm joined by Mihai Draghici, who's flown all the way from Bucharest, although he'll tell you that he's just flown in from Delhi, but I like the fact that he's come from Bucharest, who is the founder and CEO of PayByFace. And his business does what it says on the tin, which is PayByFace. Mihai, welcome.
Thank you, Arjun, for the invitation.
And I hope you're comfortable on the couch.
Yes, it's good. It's good? Yeah. I've been in taxis all day long, so couch is nice.
Right. Don't fall asleep.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
That's not the point, right? Yes. So I've obviously known you for a few years, right?
Yes.
We met first, I think 2 or 3 years back. I think it was 3 years back, right?
Yep.
And at that time you'd launched PayByFace in Europe. You were looking to get into the Middle East. I was with a large retail conglomerate. I was particularly keen on bringing the solution and being the first in market to launch. What's very pleasing to hear is that you've made a lot of good progress since then.
Yes.
And we're going to come to that, right? Let me kind of dive straight in then, right? We
Sure.
have about 25 to 30 minutes, so the pleasantries can wait, and let's get into the hard, straight question. Biometrics is not new, right? They've been around for a decade, if not longer. We've been using retinas at airports. We've been using thumb imprints for maybe 2 decades, if not longer, right? Yeah. What's different this time around?
Well, I think the technology is definitely different. Cloud computing is different. Algorithms have gotten better. And there's more of an appetite for innovation and change, I think, now. And all of that combined, clearly the terrible pandemic that hit all over the world has disrupted the loyalty programs in retail, has disrupted the experience and the amount of friction that you need to do when you're going shopping. And so now that we're finally traveling again and going to the store without plastic coverings and all kinds of very fearful environment, change is going to really differentiate one business from another. So as soon as you enter a store and you see new tech, because at the airport you just landed and boarded the plane with just your face, and then you go to your favorite cafe and you also pay by face, I think it's going to make sense.
So you use the word pay by face, right?
Yes.
And then let me bring that angle in, right? Financial services and kudos to a number of fintechs and organizations where the adoption of technology is moving at a light speed, right? But they still tend to be relatively conservative when it comes to, consumer privacy, security, and so on and so forth. What do you think has shifted, in terms of the financial services? Is it just that we are on this contactless wave and biometrics is just yet another wave on the back of another contactless wave? or is there something more to it?
I think there's definitely something more to it. That the contactless was influenced by the pandemic, of course, but also the idea of taking payments beyond the transaction. I think that's also important because let's just say transactions are a little boring. I just pay and then I go about my day, and I'm shopping every single day. So why not make it fun? Why not add gamification? Why not add cryptocurrency now? There's all kinds of new forms of payments. There's different biometrics, hand, there's voice, there's, eyeball scanning, all kinds of stuff. So now it's trying to figure out which one of these experiences does the customer actually love the most. Is it a phone without buttons or a phone with buttons? So I think that's also part of it, is trying to figure out what is the customer going to want. And that's what we're in the business of, is trying to figure that out. And I chose face.
And why? So that's the question, right? So as you said, Amazon's gone with palms, right? Others will go with thumbs. Voice.
Voice,
I actually tested voice as a payment mechanism, right? So why do you think face will prevail?
Well, face is also something that is very prevalent in our very highly present social media world. We're driven by social media. Celebrities and influencers, it's their face. It all started with movie stars and actors, and Tom Cruise looks like Tom Cruise. Penelope Cruz looks like Penelope Cruz, and it's their face. That's their sort of their trademark. And so I wanted to use a face because it's not just your visual image of who you are, but it's also sort of your unique identifier as a payment method. So, you don't leave home without your face. You don't run out of batteries on your face and all these things. And this is actually what started the idea of PayByFace. Born in Bucharest, about 4 or 5 years ago, I was in Seattle. I was born in Romania, but I went to the United States when I was 5, and I grew up in Texas and did all my engineering career in Seattle. So about 4 or 5 years ago, I was living on a sailboat in Seattle, building a winery. I was kind of fed up with tech. I had done so many startups. And my mom called me up and said, "Hey, why don't you go back to Romania and go see your grandmother?" She had just turned, I think, like 87. And I actually caught her in life, and I took a selfie with her. I hadn't been back for 25 years. And while I was in Bucharest, I had a coffee on a cafe in the streets of Bucharest. And the waitress came out and asked me, "How would you like to pay, cash or card?" I've never heard this in the States. Nobody asks you how you want to pay. And so I was like, well, why does that matter? Why don't I just pay with my face, sort of like jokingly? And we had already talked about something like this in Dallas, Texas, just several months before me going to Romania. So it all started clicking and linking together. And I was like, you know what, for my engineering background, I think I can actually build this. And, then I started customer discovery, talking to all the banks, learning payment systems. And 4 years later, here I am launching PayByFace all over the world.
That's well done. So tell us a little bit more about your journey. So it's very interesting where it all started. Where are you on your journey with PayByFace?
At the present moment, we just raised our seed round, and now we're traveling the world. So the last 3 weeks, I've been traveling all over India, setting up our offices in Hyderabad. So we're going to launch with at Hyderabad International Airport, and which is really interesting because you've probably seen now at airports, you're starting to board with your face at passport control. Mm-hmm. You're getting your face scanned, and it's sort of this dystopian sort of thing.
I was gonna introduce you as meet Mihai, the person who's bringing us a step closer to the dystopian future.
Minority Report is coming, yeah. So
you're launching in Hyderabad.
Yes, as one of the markets. We've already launched in Bucharest.
That's what I know.
That was our sandbox, so to speak, our test. We experimented in Bucharest.
And you targeted F&B businesses.
Yeah, we targeted anyone and everyone who would accept it. First of all, it was just
taxi services.
Taxi, yeah. We're in Uber taxis in Bucharest in the back seat.
Okay.
We're in coffee shops and salons, pharmacies, all over Bucharest, and that was where we wanted to see how do people react to it. It was very experimental for almost 2 years, and the pandemic was in the middle of the pandemic, so we had shutdowns, businesses went out, we had to pull iPads, move iPads. It was a nightmare, but we learned a lot. And at the same time, we did 2 accelerators. We were in Startup Bootcamp in Amsterdam and the Visa Innovation Program in Bulgaria. So that's where we really started becoming very mature and thinking of how are we actually going to monetize this technology, and how are we going to make it safe, secure, and convenient? Because those 3 components as soon as you hit those 3 components, that's when the payment system innovates.
It does, and that's important. And this is the question I wanted to kind of come to you next with, right? So you bring the biometrics side of the facial payments, you combine that with payments, right? In all intents and purposes, it's not just the payment process which you've enabled. You open up a whole, I guess, box of opportunities, right? What are those that you see, right? So and sort of paint a picture around, how are you seeing transactions? I don't want to use the word retail because I don't think your solution is only applicable to retail. It can go beyond retail. How do you see actually this go forward? How do you see it evolve?
Yeah, so I think the vision here, I guess, the mission and vision is to take payments beyond the transaction. So I've been shopping my whole life. Ever since my parents gave me money, I started buying bubble gum and shop every day. It's part of our life. And it was very boring. I mean, you just go, tap your card or give cash, and you do it and you forget it. And I realized that you still have to go buy milk and eggs. You're still going to go pay for your drink, and you're going to do this. So I wanted to create sort of the Netflix of shopping, where you've subscribed now to shopping with your face, because that's basically what you're doing on PayByFace. You're subscribing to shopping, and then you choose to pay for that with your face. You don't have to carry anything anymore. So with PayByFace, you don't need your phone, you don't need your card, you don't need anything except your face, and it really becomes the next level, because almost every payment thing that I've seen, watches and rings and chips and all this stuff, you have 2 components of that transaction. You have the merchant side and the consumer side, and the consumer has to have something like cash or coins or chip or whatever, and the merchant has to have a receiving side, a phone or a POS or something. I basically took out the hardware side on the buyer because you're born with it. And that was the first step. And this sort of makes it very scalable on the issuing side, so to speak, consumer side. The next step was to make it scalable on the merchant side. So
That's my question. How do you answer the ubiquity issue on the acceptance side?
So it all started software. Software is the secret answer here. So
I agree, but how?
By making it platform agnostic and easy to distribute.
But you're still dependent on some level of hardware.
Yes, I depend on an iOS device or an Android device to run my software, my app, but you can download it just as easy as you download Facebook. So I don't need some fancy equipment.
You don't need the iPads anymore?
No, it can be on anything now. You can put it on your phone and have take payments straight from your phone. And it's also very lightweight on the actual algorithm side.
Right.
So you don't need any fancy, like souped up, iPad anymore. Now you can put it on just a simple $40 Android tablet and be in rural India selling coconuts and making payments with people's faces.
Okay, let me ask you the hard question. How do you solve the issue with privacy and security? Because that as a consumer, that's kind of my number one issue.
Yes, and that's been the most asked question ever since I've been doing this.
I would imagine so.
I've been asked that question
that proves
the
two
most.
Things, that there are other fools like me, or I'm not a fool.
No, it's a very important question, and I think that's important.
Because I think that's part of the education and awareness, right?
Yeah.
Because you're going to meet people who are on this spectrum of security, right? Where there are people like, I guess, some people who don't care, and then there are people who are paranoid.
Yes.
And you need to be able to bring along the wider spectrum. I'm not saying everybody.
Yes.
But go on. What's your perspective?
first of all, my perspective is I don't expect PayByFace to be for everyone.
Great.
And I really want to target both my merchants and my my buyers and consumers for the convenience, because we've noticed over doing this for the last 4 years almost in so many tests that it's really PayByFace is really about convenience and speed, primarily. Of course, security and safety is the core, but it took us a very long time to reach that checkbox. Plus, the technology itself, I built myself. So
I'm aware of that.
Yes, and so it definitely took me a while. I have the background and the knowledge to do it, and I'm not saying it's perfect, but now that we're and there was an article just a few minutes ago that went live for MasterCard that we're in the biometrics.
Congratulations!
Thank you very much. So now I have engineers that are much smarter than me, and people that are going to help us improve this even further on data privacy, on data security, on scalability, and how do we actually protect the user from that utopian, we control everything, Big Brother style. So it's going to take more time. I think it's always going to be in motion. Technology doesn't stop. We're always going to be improving it. We're always going to be adapting to new regulations. Now that cryptocurrency is starting to go. What if we had to combine cryptocurrency into PayByFace? So it's always going to be a dynamic environment as far as data and who owns the data and where does data go. And this was one of the key decisions, because we are a European-based company at the core. I had to abide by GDPR, and GDPR, from what I understand, especially in the Netherlands, is probably one of the strictest regulators on data. And we architected PayByFace specifically for that. So we built around the rules that I was given to make this as appropriate for general public in retail as we possibly could. And now with MasterCard's help and part of the biometric program, we're going to go through some very rigorous testing on data, what happens with the data, what happens if you have a twin brother and a twin sister, what happens, for all these fraud aspects. There's so many different use cases. What happens if someone's standing behind you and you duck and they make a payment, right?
I saw that funny video on YouTube.
Yes, there's a viral video on that. Yeah. So we've gone through a lot of these questions internally, especially up here in my head. I can't sleep at night because I just think of all these, how are they going to break my system? How could they, fraud, even in cards nowadays, fraud is always an important question in payments. And so we really tried to add elements on top of e-commerce payments, because that's PayByFace is running on e-commerce payments, adding things like passive liveliness to detect if it's an actual person or a photo. We added things like geofencing to make sure that you are actually present within the proximity of your shopping region. If I'm here in Dubai, there's no reason iPads in Bucharest should even have my data on them, right? So we did things like this to really improve it. But we're still, like I mentioned earlier, it's all based on the technology, and we're using the power of today's available technology, cloud computing, the very powerful mobile devices, to be able to aggregate a whole bunch of different components in a very unique way to make this as safe as possible.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question. Your brand says PayByFace. I know you're vetted to the face. Are you vetted to the pay?
To the pay? No. So the face will actually, now that I link the face to a card, because that's, your face becomes a card, we can do all kinds of really cool stuff next. So we've already thought of, drone delivery, where the drone scans your face, very futuristic stuff. AI drones flying around with, from dropping pizza, scanning people's faces, payment done, super utopian, to taking money out of ATMs with your face, to, robots walking down the street, scanning your face and, serving you at the restaurant. You already see the robots at the restaurants delivering,
Yep.
So, you just scan your face, you paid, and there's no human anywhere involved anymore. Even to the point where I even have a future project going on where it's sort of the metaverse. Now we're going into virtual reality.
I cannot finish any episode without the word metaverse.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yes.
But go on. Let's have your view too.
Sure. So Mr. Zuckerberg is betting hard on the metaverse, and we're going to be living.
There's a lot of people betting.
Yes. So everyone thinks we're going to be living in this virtual reality, limitless world, but we still live on planet Earth until Musk can start flying his rockets to Mars. And so I'm building a sort of an interactive AI. It's called Eva, and she has face recognition, voice recognition, and she can be installed on the TV in your living room. And you can talk to her and say, "Hey, Eva, what's the weather like? Tell me a joke, and please order me a cab and some pizza." And she scans your face. She already knows your card on file, makes the payments, sends your emails. It's starting to go into that robotic Minority Report. We're all WALL-E, the movie WALL-E, where you just,
Yep, I do remember.
So I think it's a little bit it's hard. It's a pill hard to swallow, thinking that we're just going to be surrounded by all this technology, but artificial intelligence and machine learning is here to stay. I think it's not going to stop. Let's hope it doesn't go towards the Terminator route, right? Skynet, because that's.
We've got a few movies.
Thank you, Hollywood, for freaking us all out.
Minority Reports, Terminator, but no, but there is a risk.
It
right?
is.
There is a risk. Why I'm not saying we this turns into Minority
Reports.
Yeah,
for now, I just want you to buy a cup of coffee.
Yeah,
let's just keep it at coffee cups and sandwiches,
and obviously or use it for loyalty programs, or something which is related, right? You've obviously setting up shop in MENA.
Yes.
Right. Talk to us a little bit about what's been your experience in this region. What are your plans? Spill those beans that you're happy to. We're not asking you to tell us everything, but talk to us a little bit about what are you doing in the MENA region? What are your plans here?
Yeah. So it's what I'm really trying to do in as many major cities as I can with the funding that I have. And it's one of the key locations in the world. Of course, Dubai being such an innovative city, always showcasing to the world the latest tech. I was from GITEX.
Yep.
There's so much advanced technology here. It just really made sense to also be here. And we want to, be a market leader. I want to showcase PayByFace, and I feel clearly Dubai is the place to do it, especially if we can apply the last 4 years of our learnings and experiments to do it even better here than we did in Bucharest. And so I think that this is a stage for the entire world for us to have to participate there. So clearly I want to set up an office. I want to get a subsidiary company going. I want to create some partnerships with retail chains and start, taking payments with face in a local coffee shop or restaurant or by the hotel bar.
And it's not just the UAE, to be honest with you. You sit alongside the kingdom, which is 3x the size, and then you have Egypt, which is about 100 million, and as a matter of fact, a younger population, very much open to trying new ways of payments. It's not a bad idea, but it will be a slog, right? I'm not suggesting that Bucharest wasn't, because I think the fact of the matter is that there are a number of countries here, and they all have their own nuances in terms of how regulation plays out. That we don't really have any regional banks. Mm-hmm. Right. So, that multi-geography effect, that efficiency that comes around, it doesn't. So, my 2 cents of advice would be start with the UAE. Mm-hmm. I think you're doing the right thing, but then you need to quite rapidly expand into those larger geographies because, your business is one of large quantum, right? Economies of scale needs to kick in. So you want to get in, and you want to get in where you can, I guess, circumvent people who are going up this journey of change, right? I use this example that a lot of us in a part of the world I grew up from, went from a landline to literally a smartphone.
Wow.
Right. We skipped the whole beeper and the the first generation of mobile phones. And that's kind of what you want to do in some of these countries like Egypt and others. You can literally sort of skip straight away. You don't have to kind of wait through through the journeys, right? Mihai, pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Arjun.
I wish you the very best. Obviously, we'll stay in touch. We have for the last few years. It's good to see you in person.
Likewise.
And not at the back of a Zoom or a Teams call.
Yeah.
But, best of luck. Get your company set up. I think you're days away from what you told me earlier today.
Yes.
And bring this dystopian future to us.
Sure. I'll make it possible to get a beer with your face in Dubai as soon as possible.
Yeah, as soon as possible. As soon as possible.
Yeah.
We should do that.
Cool.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Arjun.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.
So we had Mihai. He's founder and CEO of PayByFace. He's setting up shop in the Middle East, but obviously he's operational in a number of other countries, and quite impressive to hear that he's actually going to be launching something in India and Hyderabad, because the Indian fintech scene is just, it's just incredible with what's going on there. With that, I'd like to say thank you and goodbye, and I'll see you at the next episode. Bye-bye.